13 Questions by Man Transcending. Manhood in the Digital Age.
Welcome back to another episode of 13 Questions. This is the first episode on this side of the solstice. It has been a while since we released one, so it is 2022 now. And Adam is with me. Adam, how are you?
Good. Enjoying the new year. Hoping this one's going to be, I don't know, either less crazy or more crazy than the next. I don't know. Depends on what all that would entail. But yeah, looking forward to another, let's just call it a surprising year. I'll be surprised no matter what happens.
Oh, for sure. If this interview was is a precursor to the year, like it's going to be amazing. Our guest, blakeArt, the official resident artist of 13 Questions now. We connected on Gramerica's Discord server years ago, and with the recent migration from Discord over to Mattermost, things kind of got shuffled and we lost touch. But we reconnected, and especially once I found out he did graphic design, asked him to do some work on the logo for us. We ended up with 2. Which is neat, but we'll get into that later on in the intro. This is kind of on the longer side, which I think is cool, just because we've been kind of light on the releases lately. So maybe a longer episode will make up for that. But yeah, what housekeeping?
Oh, well, I mean, first and foremost, obviously we got some new logos out there, which is really exciting, designed for us by the guest. We talk about it in the episode, so we don't really need to dive into it here. But if you like the logo and you like the guest, definitely check out his work. All of the links are in the show notes below. Yeah, go click there. Yep, you got it. Hell yeah, hire this guy. He's super awesome, dude. Super fun to talk to. And we've been talking to him for, almost a couple months now, getting these logos ready. And yeah, very cool. It's always fun when you find an artist. It's even more fun when you find an artist that you're just on the same wavelength with and you can bring on as a guest and just, I don't know, I don't know how to put it. We talked, I'm losing words, but what are the right words? Man, this is going to be a weird edit.
Memes became handy. We were talking about memes. We can just, if we could have an intro and just memes, maybe we should figure out a way to do that. And that'll be the new
meme-tro.
Meme-tro, I love it.
No, the whole thing working with him was, just, I don't know. It was very, I can't even think of the words now. Harmonious. It just worked out very well. We were all on the same page, and right out of the gate, his ideas lined up. First meeting, there were 2 that just screamed out to us, and we've been honing in on those. And I don't know. I'm excited about it. Really, really excited. So outside of that and new logos and the cool guests, which you guys will be hearing, still working on the website, adding to it. Bill's going to be having lots of new little things going up there. Obviously, we're all over the social medias, so check us out on Telegram, check us out on Discord, join us there. What other social medias are we monitored on now, or not monitored, but are you posting on?
Well, we do have a Gab account, which...
That's right, Gab.
That's where most of the dank memes are going to be found, because they get censored on the other platforms. So just head on over there. And yeah,
if you want to contact the show, if you like anything, if you have suggestions for guests, if you have, ideas for questions, if you just want to reach out and say hi, you can do that through the Discord. You can do that through the website. You can do that through 13questionspodcast@gmail.com. What else? Ooh, not housekeeping, but we do have gratitudes.
Yeah, we do.
Gratitude, 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 oh, gratitude. gratitude, gratitude, oh, gratitude.
That jingle there is from Sir Felix. Check him out on Bandcamp. Check him out, baked there into the show notes. Really fun, wonderful dude, an amazing artist.
Yeah. Sir Felix is great. Gratitude. Let's see. I was going to tie this into something I had just said about, meme or not memes. Anyway, I bought a set of encyclopedias recently. Well, I didn't buy them. Ellie did, but that's beside the point. Anyway, they're an older set, which is something really cool in my opinion, just because, censoring. That's what I was going to tie it into. Memes. I like Gab just because a lot of the stuff that I like to post gets fact checked now. So that's interesting. Censorship of knowledge is something that maybe some of us are thinking more about. And I think one way to kind of guard against that is to obtain very old books, whatever book it may be, preferably, what is that, fiction? I always get those two confused. That would be nonfiction. So like encyclopedias, old dictionaries. I picked up this, Encyclopedia of Organic Gardening at a Goodwill the other day for like $1.70 something. So just old books like that, because you never know what's going to happen in the future, and it's nice to have a record in a paper copy, right?
Well, and I mean, if the digital infrastructure goes down, then things go crazy. That book, invaluable. That knowledge, hard to come upon. Books used to have way more value than we give them now, to where libraries were places for knowledge to be congregated and universities were places to learn just based upon, these words being congregated in one area. But now, knowledge is so ubiquitous that we lose track of that. But a wilderness guide, when you're lost in the wilderness, that's life.
Yeah, and there's something else I was going to add to this, but
Britannica, buy old books, intrinsic knowledge, censorship, Gab.
I didn't mention Britannica, but I think they are Britannicas. Yes.
I just assumed you mentioned,
Yeah, but on our website we have a book catalog. It is a relatively recent page. I think it was first uploaded in September. So if you haven't checked out the website yet since then, do that. There's a whole list of answers to question 3, which is the book question. So check that out and buy a book if you're interested in having a paper copy of a book someone has recommended on the show before.
Well, and especially if somebody's been influential or impactful, on you. Why not, ingest some of the knowledge and information that they cite as being impactful on them? It's a wonderful way to, use some of the same building stones, that a person has built themselves upon. And if you like parts of who they are, go to some of those base materials and, see what you can't build in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got a gratitude and a plugin. Do you have a gratitude that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I do. I have in mine ties right into the episode. It's magic. It's this wonderful magic, whether it's meme magic, whether it is actual magic. Your thoughts, the things you do result in the material, magical world around you. Great change happens with memes, with thoughts, with ideas, with things that strike in the heart of other people and spread like wildfire in a viral way that you can't explain, to where it has its own life and its own quality. And, it becomes things just as much as you can make an iPad. You can, guide the future in our direction. And, it's beautiful that, a meme or a thought or an idea or a little piece of magic, this can spark in it a change in society, a direction, in the same way that so many bits of science came from people reading science fiction or watching Star Trek and resulted in, real manifest of technology and existence in the world. That exists in all places, in all ideas. And all you need to do is look around the world at all the ideas and things that exist around you that, until you build to a certain level of technology built upon technology, can you even get to? That without, 200 years of knowledge, if you keep going back in steps and chunks, you need to build on the shoulder of giants. You need the LED, you need the transistor, you need plastic, you need synthetics, you need all these different things to be discovered and arranged in different ways and figured out on top and then conglomerated. And so you can't see the big picture. Within that, no one person, can hold it. But this idea, the idea can then bring into it a world that was impossible before and becomes manifest. And I'm probably not doing a great way of describing it, but just look around, because everything you see, all the cool cars, the cool electronics, whatever man-made creation, it is ultimately a thought, a meme, an idea. It is true magic. Those things came from the mind, and all people did was speak in a certain way and move in a certain way and influence other people in a certain way. And those things are here. So yeah, what ideas can bring us forward into take yourself to a primitive caveman with, technology being fire and rocks and things you find around you. And then imagine space travel. Imagine planes and microwaves and cities and supermarkets and, not having to fight and survive and go get the buffalo, but go and, pull up to a window in a vehicle that powers itself, run from things from the ground. And it's all amalgamations of the ground. It's all made from rocks. It's all made from the same, tars and things that are around. But, the thought and ingenuity, structuring those things in certain ways. So that is a form of magic that I see around me all the time that I'm very thankful for. So to everybody else out there, I'm thankful for you for participating and spreading. And, as we dive into the conversation, we're all part of the fractal. We're part of, the answer the universe has given. And I don't know, I just kind of like the idea that, I don't know, we all have the ability to be the magicians of the world.
It's true. We do. I mean, the mind is a powerful tool, and to be creating something like this podcast in the year 2022, allegedly, it's exciting to have this opportunity. And as a listener, you can participate too by helping spread the love. Share the show with somebody that just share the show with anybody that you think could benefit from it, or that you care about, or go out and do a recording your own, submit it, send it in to us. We'll make an episode out of it so it can reach the masses. But yeah, so those things like that are really more important when it comes to support. Of course, we do still have the PayPal support link up on the site, if that's the easier way.
All we ask is value for value. What do you value from this conversation? What did you gain from it? And, share that. It's not on us to tell you what that value is. That's important and unique to each individual person. So I just hope that you enjoyed it and you gained something, and, value. Share a question, share a guest, share an idea, share it with your friends, share keeping the lights on with us. There's so many ways that you can participate. Bring me magic into the world.
And let us know what you guys think of the logos. Send us a message on whatever platform you prefer. We've got basically all of them. So let us know what you think. And I don't know, with that, I guess we can get into the intro. Adam, what do you think? Or the intro?
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good time to dive in, and I hope you all truly do enjoy this guest. Great conversation, great personality. Oh, I should say we do have some audio issues in the first chunk of the questions, but we do get those corrected. We switch around, so just bear with it, stick through. It will get better, and it was good to begin with. So you're really in for a treat. Tonight on 13 Questions, we have with us blakeArt. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. Love the format.
Well, thank you for spending your time with us. It's the most valuable thing you can offer, and it is not lost on us.
Well, it's appreciated, and I appreciate the platform, and I'm eager to answer the questions. So.
All right. We'll dive right in then. Question number 1. What was the best advice ever given to you? Would you modify it at all today?
Well, in kind of reading all the questions, I think this one's probably the hardest to answer for me. 2 specific ones jump to mind. My dad told me, actually not too long ago, within the past 10 years, when you've made the sale, shut up. So I tend to be long-winded and will Edith Bunker off into a tangent to where it's like I completely lose track of the conversation and where it's going. I don't know if you're familiar with All in the Family, but Archie would ask Edith a question and she'd start to answer it, but then she would just link different thoughts to different thoughts to different thoughts. And all of a sudden she's talking about, something completely unrelated to the first question asked. So that's the one thing that my, dad kind of instilled in me, not too long ago. And luckily I still got my dad and he's around for me to kibitz with today. The second one was back in college. And I can't remember the dean of the,
sorry about that, Blake. We lost you there for a second.
You did?
10 seconds, at least on my end.
I was able to hear him. I think the audio should be okay.
Okay.
No sweat. Well, anyway, my grades my sophomore year in college had kind of dipped a little bit, and I was a Bachelor of Fine Arts. That was my major. I was going to be a painter, as you can see. Painting behind me for the radio audience, or the podcast audience. I have one of my original blakeArts behind me. But I didn't have, I wasn't happy with, it was a 5-year program. I didn't want to be down there for 5 full years. And I was like, how am I going to, no one really expressed to me or any of the other people in the BFA program what a starving artist entails. And if someone would have said, here's what you have to do. You have to just paint or produce your own artwork proficiently and do just a ton of it. And then get it up in any coffee house, any low rent starter galleries, grunge galleries, rock and roll shows, where they have, parties, raves, that kind of thing. Get your art out that way. And then you start to build an audience in that regard. When I was a sophomore or a junior, I had in college, I had like a sleeve an old fashioned, like, portfolio that I'd bring around to these really high end, well established galleries and try to show these people. Now, they didn't have anybody in the gallery, and I was able to talk to the owners, but they weren't interested in some 20-year-old punk going around showing the, pictures of their work. They wanted to have a moving bicycle. No one wants to get on a parked bicycle. They want the bicycle to be moving before they hop on, because they know it's going to be, an established type of a thing. But I went to the School of General Studies at the college I went to, and I talked to the dean there, and he told me, you should build your own degree through the School of General Studies. So I took all the graphic design from my fine art experience through the School of Fine Art at the college I went to, the University of Missouri, Columbia. I took marketing classes through the School of Business, and I took advertising classes through the School of Journalism. So they didn't have an art director sequence in the School of Advertising or the journalism school at Mizzou, but they had an advertising degree. But that's basically what I'm describing to you as an art director's degree. And through the School of General Studies, I was able to do that. And I took that guy's advice on, establishing that type of a well-rounded a curriculum instead of a siloed, straight marketing or straight business or straight finance or straight journalism. And what that's done is that's influenced my life up until this point dramatically, because I feel like I'm a conduit for all kinds of different aspects. So I know a lot about a lot. And that training was instilled in me in college because I took the dean of the School of General Studies advice. So
sounds like a smart man. Yeah.
Yeah. Spiritually, it's paid off. Financially, it kinda. But I'm able to pay all my bills.
It's that old adage, once you're in the grave at the end of your life, what was it? The hallucination that we all shared that, that we call money, the perceived value we put into paper with ink on it or pieces of metal or shell or whatever we've chosen throughout time versus growing as a spiritual being. And if you feel that this world is, has some sort of meaning and maybe connectedness, beyond our constructs of time, then it seems like that's the choice.
Right. And that has been, when we get into the deeper dive of the other questions, that's right down my alley. And I think that is our soul's journey. This is our purpose. I'll start it, just to build on your point, Adam. Terence McKenna, there's a video. I love Terence McKenna, huge influence on me. And there's a video of him reading out of this book. Can't remember what it's called, but the title of the video is The Purpose of Man, and why man exists and why all this exists, basically. Reality itself, consciousness. And to paraphrase McKenna reading from this book that was, I guess, boxed out of the Bible, it wasn't included. It's something that's like super old. I don't know where it comes from. It could be, Assyrian or Sumerian type of a thing. But the purpose of man is to observe and admire and to wonder at God's creation. That is the whole reason why we're here, is to marvel at this. Kind of like a baby looking out at the gears of the mechanisms of consciousness. You know what I mean? So that's, along that same line of, when you're in your grave, what were you really trying to achieve? What, were you trying to amass a big pile of gold and stuff, or were you just trying to be thankful and grateful that we're able to experience the ride that is consciousness?
No, I love that, because it kind of ties into that, it's not the destination, it's the journey.
Right.
The real answer is part of the question, or is the question. So, it is kind of a beautiful thing that, to have answers, you need questions, and a universe needs meaning.
Right.
Which, to tie into Terence McKenna, one of the most beautiful things I've heard him talk about was fractals. And in the early days of creating fractals in computers, they started to realize they resembled natural structures. And he started to realize, it'd be leaves or lightning, or the curvature of like how coasts look with these curves.
Yeah.
And he's walking along the beach contemplating this, and he sees a distinctive like blackish rock that's just somewhat out of place, but doesn't think much of it until he's walking down the beach and he sees another one. He's like, okay, well, now that I'm thinking about these fractals, I decided to go back, and he counts so many steps, then walks back forward. Then he goes beyond that, and within, a smaller percentage, so say it was like, 100, maybe like 115 feet, something like that steps.
Right.
He finds a third one.
Yeah.
And his explanation was, it's not necessarily that every so many feet you're going to find a third rock. I didn't find another continuation of rocks every space after that. But what it says is, why was the rock there? Because it needed to be there. The answer to the algorithm, the answer to the fractal itself was this rock or this thing in a similar place or location. And I love that view because it ties into like the meaning and the purpose. Why are you here? Well, part of the meaning is because you are a part of an answer to this equation, to this fractal, to the system that you're in. And you might not even need to understand it because you're here.
Right. Well, and you're touching, the word fractal. I mean, Benoit Mandelbrot, we're going to talk about him in one of the other questions. That guy is a tremendous influence on my worldview and the philosophy that I'm kind of birthing forth as the artist formerly known as blakeArt. I'm kind of calling it simulation assumptionism. And we can touch upon that later on. But Mandelbrot with, fractals in form and nature, or I can't remember the title of the book, but that's a huge influence on me and on the world of computers and computer animation, the way cell phones work. The Mandelbrot set, they call it the thumbprint of God, because it's the graphing of an equation by a computer. And Mandelbrot was the first guy to put an equation like that into a computer to show those fractal zooms of the Mandelbrot set. That's why it's called that. So, I mean, that's like a can of worms that I'm happy to open later on in one of the questions. One of the other questions, I think, what's your biggest influence or something? So,
well, real quickly, speaking of God, I guess this is perfect to bring up. This reminded me of a scripture, actually. I'll read it to you and kind of just to get your observations and thoughts about it and how it.
Sure.
Talking about it's Proverbs 52 verse 2, or I'm sorry, Proverbs 25 verse 2. It is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter.
Wow. Well, so let me see if I understand that. So, like, it's our job, or not our task, but like life is a big Easter egg hunt. And you can go through life and not find any eggs. But if you make it a point to go through life and to really search out all the hidden meanings and hidden examples, like Adam was talking about McKenna walking on the beach. I've heard that video. I love that idea and that story. I mean, is that what you meant by that, Bill?
Yeah. Well, to conceal a thing, we could think of that as a mystery, right? And we hear about all these mystery schools and ancient whatnot and what have you. And the second half of the verse talks about the honor of kings. Well, what kings? Who are they talking about? Well, it's us. Like, we are each one of us.
Right.
Our job to search it out, and it's for us to discover, because that's how we become to know something.
Right.
So, not really just be familiar with it, but to have an intimate firsthand knowledge of it, right?
Sure. Yeah, I think that hits the nail on the head in regards to kind of what we're trying to articulate. What do you think, Adam?
I agree.
Sorry, that just reminded me
No, it's awesome.
of this, and because as we went through the process of making the logos, to touch on that just for a second, I loved the back and forth between you, me, and Adam, and what we came up with in the end. I think it's great. So, but
that's the creative process that just when it's firing on all cylinders, and I would say that we were. I mean, it's the greatest thing. So I love it.
What do you choose to ignore?
Oh, I'm so excited to answer this question because this is kind of a new thing that is really a part of this simulation assumptionism that I'm going to be pushing through my website, RealityDash Redesign.com. I think I remember when Obama got elected, and everyone was like clamoring for everyone to, hey, George W. Bush, you gotta, are you gonna put him in jail? Are you gonna investigate? Are you gonna do all this stuff? And Obama was like, no, we're just gonna, hey, we're gonna move on. This is the deal. And I remember being very disappointed because I just really wasn't a big fan of W, and I thought that they did a lot of illegal stuff. But as I'm a little older now, and we do have to acknowledge that, a lot of the ruling elite, quote marks, air quotes, have got a lot of problems and issues. But the things that I'm choosing to ignore are the diagnosing now, starting, with the launch of Reality Redesign. I'm learning to ignore diagnosing the world's problems. Everybody knows what they are. So there's too much greed, too much pollution, there's too much corruption, there's too much of this, there's too much of that. What I want to focus on, and what I think the world needs to start focusing on, is solutions instead of diagnosis. So what does that mean? Who out there is putting forth any concrete, assumptions or, simulations of how to solve the world's problems? There's that one kid who was like 16 who invented that floating machine that like collects garbage on the ocean. And he did it through some sort of a model simulation thing. And they built it out big. He got a bunch of investors. They built it out big, and it actually does work. So that's like one example, but there's really not a lot of, solutions being put forth to help solve, the myriad of the world's problems. Reality Redesign is, not to just endlessly plug what I'm trying to accomplish, but that's what I'm here to do, is a place where people can put forth solutions based upon the different aspects and the 13, I'm on the podcast, 13 questions. Reality Redesign's putting forth 13 tenets of, proposals of how to, at least look at the world in a different way, think different, to quote Apple's old tagline. So I don't know if they do that anymore. They're too busy trying to, make money. But ignoring, we all know what the world's problems are. That's what I choose to ignore. We already know. And to sit there and endlessly rehash all the conspiracy theories and all the, the secret societies and this, that, and the other that we know exist, that's kind of that's the thing I'm choosing to ignore. And here's the other thing that I kind of want to articulate in regards to that, is that people who are kind of stuck in that, I don't know if you've seen are you guys fans of the show Succession?
I have not.
Have you ever heard of it or seen it?
No, neither.
So it's kind of it's got almost a rabid cult-like audience, and it's kind of based on Robert Murdoch's life. It's about a guy who Brian Cox, one of my favorite actors. He's like the head of the family who owns, a large portion of the world's media, and he's got all kinds of other. He's just a bazillionaire, and his kids are all kind of waiting for him to die so that they can. Who's gonna inherit all the money, right? Well, what that show points out is that a lot of these people are born into these families that have just always had power, and a lot of these people who are third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, ninth, 12th, Prince Charles, they don't know any better than their absolute privilege and absolute wealth and absolute power. No one's ever questioned them. They've always gotten what they've wanted, and can you blame these people? I don't think you can. You can't blame them for, the mental outlook they have on the world or what they think. But I think that, the sharing of information and keeping the dialogue wide open, no censorship, and talking it out, really, really hashing out. What are we doing here? What is this place? Why do we even exist at all? What is consciousness itself? Those are the kinds of questions we need to really start having a public discussion about. Like, we don't have any shows like that on TV. We have them on the internet because the networks don't want to. They either don't want us to know about it, or they're just scared to even touch the subjects. I don't think we should be. I think we should really, really dig deep into, the Bill Hicks perspective, the comedian Bill Hicks. This is, life is just a ride, that type of a deal.
Hey, Blake, we're getting a little beard noise on your
oh, I'm so sorry.
Your microphone there. No, it's all good. It's all good.
I'm trying to hold it away from my face like this, so I apologize. That beard does get in the way.
But
tell it to Sasquatch.
I love that you had the second half to that question. Your answer was, you gave the answer, right? Which is stop diagnosing the world's problems, right? And then start focusing.
Correct.
Right? That's awesome, because something that Ellie and I were actually talking about not too long ago, because she has more experience managing people in a workplace setting than I do. But so when dealing with people who complain, who bring complaints to you, if you don't have a solution, stop complaining, right? So, and I love that. So you're talking about focusing on solutions, right?
Correct.
At least have a suggestion or something constructive to say. Don't just be negative Nancy or whatever. And then I also like how you put in a little dash of compassion at the end, because I think that these people that, powers that be or whatever,
well, I think that they're scared. They're just as scared as people who are living paycheck to paycheck. But what they're scared of is the betrayal of their caste or their status. It's gonna seem weak if they're compassionate or if they have empathy or altruistic about their, the way they want to help people. I mean, I think that a lot of people who get up into the echelon of power, they've, a lot of them are, I'm sorry to say, but a lot of them are kind of psychotic. But there's others that really aren't, and but are fearful of almost doing the right thing or speaking up because they'll get chastised or kicked out. They'll lose their place at the table, and none of them are gonna risk that to do the right thing. It's becoming a rarer and rarer thing to do.
Yeah.
So
I think psychotic is a good adjective to use.
I know, but they don't have to be. I think that and especially with the worldview I'm putting forth, the simulation assumptionism. If this is a simulation, that's the thing. Let's just assume that it is. Well, then, what does that entail? Well, that means, the shape of the earth doesn't matter. Is it round or is it flat? Well, doesn't matter. It's a simulation. But actually, consciousness, in my theory, it's like quantum physics. It's both. when you observe the Earth and its position in the universe, it behaves like a particle or a planet. Okay. PLANE/T. But when you're driving to McDonald's or you're flying to New Zealand or you're, invading Poland in 1939, it's flat, so that's the deal. It acts like a wave when you're not being aware of it, but when you are measuring it in space against the backdrop of everything else, it's round.
So was that an Axis and Allies reference, or was that just a...
Yes, totally. I love that game. Sorry for the beard noise. I just took a drink.
Awesome. What book has been most influential on your life and why?
There's so many. I'll give you 3. Okay. First one, which turned me into a knowledge seeker, is my grandparents gave me the Time Life book, Strange Stories and Amazing Facts, when I was like 8. And I was a voracious reader. I can't read at all anymore. It puts me to sleep. I mean, I'll start reading a book and I freaking wake up in my own drool puddle, 20 minutes later. It's terrible. I don't know why I can't. I can read the internet on the computer screen, but I can't read a book. But Strange Stories and Amazing Facts, it was such an influence on me. I read that thing cover to cover over and over and over again, especially the chapter Footsteps into the Unknown. And then there was the other one about our ancient past and all the cultures. And they sugar-coated it and censored it and gave the approved, version through the channels that be. I mean, they weren't going to be going out on a limb like Graham Hancock and one of my other books, Fingerprints of the Gods, which was a huge influence. But Strange Stories and Amazing Facts made me super curious about all the stuff we talked about in question number 1, seeking out the Easter eggs, why things are the way they are. So that's that. And again, Fingerprints of the Gods, got that when I was 16 or 17. Found it in a bookstore, asked for it for Christmas, got it from Santa Claus when I was 17. And just read that thing over and over again. Such a great book. Graham Hancock is a big hero. And all that stuff, especially about the Puma Punku and Machu Picchu, all the stuff in South America, ancient Egypt, the Sumerians, Assyrians, and then all his other books, especially Underworld, and then Sign and the Seal. Boy, is that a great book by Hancock! I mean, about the lost Ark that's supposedly in Ethiopia in a town called Axum, AXUM, or something like that. It's a crazy story. Third book, which was a huge influence, is Gödel, Escher, Bach, The Eternal Golden Braid by a guy named Douglas Hofstadter. This book he released it in 1978. It is such a hard read. It's super thick, but it talks about how mathematics through Gödel, art through Escher, and music through Bach braid themselves as how reality and how consciousness figured out how to exist as a better way to be. So this is the type of thing that the creator would be thinking to make this the best of all possible worlds type of a deal. I mean, it's sets within sets within sets. It talks about how, fractals. It talks about, I don't know if it talks about Mandelbrot himself, but that outlook by Hofstadter, and it won the Pulitzer Prize, by the way. So, I mean, this book was a huge deal when it came out. That married with Benoit Mandelbrot putting together these two philosophies makes that braid even stronger. So like when you're building a bridge, if you've got individual wires holding that suspension bridge up, it's kind of strong. But when you braid them, that makes this reality, or that makes the suspension of the bridge even stronger. And I think that's the type of thinking we have to put together to make our reality really look at it and redesign it to be a better way to be. And one of the things I want to braid together is communism, socialism, and capitalism, because right now they're all separate. But if we braid them together to where they work in conjunction with each other, and the analogy I use is walk, chew gum, and juggle at the same time. When you're walking, that's communism. When you're chewing gum, that's socialism. But when you're juggling, that's capitalism, because you're putting on the show and you're putting out a product. And that's what, if you've got all three of those working in conjunction, that's kind of the way I think that the world can improve the quality of life. Rising tide raises all boats if we work in conjunction with that. So those are the three books.
That's awesome about that Bach one. I've been thinking a lot about classical music lately, actually, but more to that point, last year I came across a series of books written by Richard Bach, who was a descendant of the composer. Are you familiar with
Jonathan Livingston Seagull? Yeah, man.
Yep.
Big time. I read that in high school.
And then he wrote another one, a novel called One, and it talks about braiding together timelines, which is super neat if you're into that kind of thing. So I'm definitely that book out.
Well, what you're touching on, Bill, is when people would that guy's a great storyteller, he spins a great yarn, the tapestry of life. I mean, a pattern in the matter, matris patris, it's the language, and freaking McKenna talks about this. The language is the code that builds the reality that we're all experiencing. I mean, this is what, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made flesh. I mean, this is the stuff that we can program this thing to be anything we want. That's, I don't know if it's a dirty little secret or if it's, that's the whole point behind, the spinning of the yarn and what you talk about in that, the Jonathan, the one book. I mean, I read both of those, but it's been 35 years. I mean, I was, 14, 15, 16. I had them I've got them in a box somewhere because all my shit's all spread out all over the place. But those are, telling a better story is, I think, should be the purpose of mankind and our civilization right now. Can't we tell a better story than what the frick this is? That's the deal, and weave it. I mean, because that's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the more that you just kind of look at the world around you and start paying attention, just, start to see those little hints peeking through.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right about language. Like that's information, that's input. Like our brains, this reality, call it a simulation or whatever. Like the computer needs input, and depending on what you feed it, you're going to get, certain results back. Feed it positive things, you're going to get positive results. Like, so yeah, that is the dirty little secret, at least kind of what I'm experiencing with and playing with.
Well, and what I'm hearing play off of this too that I really like in the tying of the artists is, look at science. Everything is frequency. Everything is emanating from something beneath. That seems to be what quantum, physics and the bleeding edge of science is really pointing at. And from that perspective, then really what is music and tone and thought and art, but different, frequencies of, different light and color and even just the matter and everything that exists. So, the way I like to look at the universe is kind of like it's just infinite possibility. in the same way that, what makes Mario great as a 2D platformer and it existing in that form at all is the constraints of the hardware and the system that it's in, and it makes something very
Correct.
beautiful and unique. And that we're kind of in some sort of infinite system that has a ton of constraint, that we just really don't understand the controls and don't understand how powerful we are.
Right, but there's cheat codes, like, and that's what
Exactly.
miracles are, man. And they show up.
Placebo effect. And we
Yeah,
all have it.
Yep.
And that's another part I love because, placebo effect is essentially a lie, believing something that's not true, but it brings truth into it. It's that very tricksterish aspect of life. The fact that, the shaman, if he's lying to you and you believe in him, is then truly working a miracle, but he's working a miracle through a lie. And
Right.
What does that really mean? And ultimately, what kind of power do you have with both positive and negative thoughts? So, yeah, all beautiful things just to ponder on.
Exactly. So let me touch upon, first of all, and this goes to Gödel, Escher, Bach. This sentence is false. That's true. But it's false.
Yes.
But it's true. So that's like the strange loop. That's like the most concise example of a strange loop. And that also touches upon, this reminds me of the story of McKenna walking on the beach with the black rock, the pattern and the matter and the fractal aspect of it. So on RealityRedesign.com, RealityDash Redesign.com, I made a video of 2 events that happened 33 years apart. And it's just like black rocks on the beach.
And another magic number.
Correct. Same date, November 18th, 2018. The quarterback for the Washington Redskins, Alex Smith, had a compound fracture on the 40-yard line. He was tackled by the 3-time All-American Defensive Player of the Year, AJ Watts, by the Houston Texans. And the Washington Redskins won that game 23-19 or 23-21. Or they lost that game 23-21. On Monday, November 18th, 1985, the Washington Redskins quarterback, Joe Theismann, was tackled by the only other 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, Lawrence Taylor, compound fracture, 40-yard line, Washington Redskins home game, same spot on the field. And the final score of that game was 23-21. And the Redskins won that game. And here's another crazy thing. AJ Watts blew out his knee the year before, playing the only other Indian-themed team in the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs. Who was the quarterback for the Chiefs that year? Alex Smith. So, and there's all kinds of, this is like a tangent in the structure of the thread. So like if you think of reality as a tapestry and it's like a rug, like all the other colors are muted and earth tones and stuff, like this event is like a bright red or like a super condensed, like design shining star that reflects out. And to be a witness to that, or to even recognize or to be able to uncover this thing, if you're not paying attention, that's why sports are so beautiful. There's all kinds of miracles hidden in the data. And that's like baseball. That's one of my huge influences. But Joe Theismann was at the game when Alex Smith broke his leg. He tweeted it out while they were waiting for the stretcher to come out. He's like, holy crap. Alex's injury is just like mine. Same 33 years to the day. Same score of the game. That's nuts, but it's the miracle of consciousness. It's like a, hey, pay attention. It really
speaks to cycles and the fact that, history, doesn't quite repeat itself, but it has the same flavors. The best example I've heard, and I wish I remembered who said this, was essentially, history, time, things happening over and over. It's like the rotation of the planets. They're not actually always in the same space. They're not always in the actual exact same, positions, but it's close enough that you can chart things out over a long period of time.
Right. The Great Year.
Yeah, and that
Plato's
leg break
Great
also
Year.
reminds me of UFC, because the same thing happened with Chris Weidman. He broke Silva's leg in a freak accident in a fight, which never happens for somebody to get like a shin break.
I've seen that.
And then he's fighting Uriah Hall, and Uriah Hall in a freak leg break breaks his leg. And it's like, what are the chances that one guy is involved in these, two separate events? And I see that in my life. Anytime I see these weird patterns of like, I get into a car accident, and then a year later, a coworker of mine in the same month has, a car accident, at work, my pet was going through a lot of health problems, and my coworker's pet is going through a lot of health problems. And they're both like in the same line of the same types of tests on the same days. And those are the things where I'm going, I don't know what this means, but I see patterns.
Fractal. It's the structure of consciousness. And I think that is,
That's a great way to put it. The structure of consciousness.
Yes. There's
a lattice.
Yes, exactly. And it's so history doesn't repeat itself. Okay. So it's, again, you're talking to the limitations of the software with the Mario thing. You're on the old video games from the 90s and stuff. It's a flat screen. It's left to right, and you're moving forward like that. But then on the 3D ones where you're in it and you've got your virtual reality glass, you can go anywhere. That's the upgrade in the software to make it that much more real. And a lot of that has to do with the Mandelbrot set. And one of the biggest video influences that people should watch is called it's a Nova program called Fractals, Hunting the Hidden Dimensions. It talks all about the Mandelbrot set, and a guy named Lauren Carpenter, who was one of the 3 guys who established Pixar. Lauren Carpenter was the computer programmer who was the first guy to apply the Mandelbrot set and the equations therein into computer graphics. And he says I'll quote him verbatim because I've watched this 100 times. Within 3 days, we were making landscapes, mountains, and flying through all this stuff because they were easy to do, because he figured out how to use the computer instead of doing the hand drawings with cartoons. That's what they call me, thumper, with the, you've got the pages you're flipping back and forth in your drawing. Now you got a computer doing all that for you. And that's why, when you used to watch like stuff like Godzilla, for example, and you'd see him marching through a town and stepping on buildings and blowing smoke and firing up stuff, you'd be like, yeah, that's a dinosaur destroying a town, but it's a guy in a suit. You can tell it's a guy in a suit. He's on a set. You just suspend your beliefs and say, okay, I understand what's going on. It's a movie. So, but with computer animation, it does a better job of emulating consciousness. So you are not only immersed in, if you've got your virtual reality goggles on and you're doing some sort of a game with your friends in a group setting, or if you're watching a movie with green screens and all these effects to make it look like, you're in an airplane hangar with giant, blimps and planes from like the 1930s, but you're just really in a green screen room with all the computer animation making all that look like that. So it does a better job of emulating consciousness and tricking the brain, which that's what the brain does. It's receiving the signals from, there's a lot of theories that this is, since if this is a simulation, then nothing really does exist. But it does, but it doesn't. It's like this sentence is false. It does, but it doesn't. But it does, but it doesn't. It's that endless fractal that we're all experiencing. God, I just talk about Edith Bunker. What was my point? I totally lost it. But that's what's fun to talk about this stuff, because it like zings you. You're like zipping through information,
Seeking out the mystery, right?
Exactly. Oh, and the brain is not a hard drive. The brain is a Wi-Fi. That's another tenet of reality redesign. We tune into the signal. We were talking, Adam, you brought that up. We were talking about the frequency and stuff. And I think if we all just, literally change our minds, have you guys seen the movie or the I don't know if it's Netflix or it's Hulu. It's called Dope Sick. It's about the Sater family who developed Oxycontin.
No, but I've heard amazing things about it.
Great. I mean, it's long. It's 8 episodes, an hour a piece. It's so depressing.
Yeah, is that Michael Keaton's work?
Yes, and he does a fantastic job. And Eric Sarsgaard's in it, and who else is in it? A couple other kind of big name stars. The guy who plays the big salesman for Oxycontin is the kid from the movie with Jason Sudeikis and the gal from Friends, and they go to Mexico to bring back pot or something. So, I mean, this kid does such a good job in it. I've always liked him as an actor. I can't remember his name, but basically what Oxycontin does is it literally changes your mind. It changes the brain chemistry in your brain tissue to where you do not feel, and this is what heroin does. I think this is what all addictive drugs do. It changes your mind to where you don't feel normal unless you've got this thing. So therefore, buy my product. That's the point of, this is the abuse of capitalism, which we're experiencing on record levels with everything we're going through right now. Again, reality redesign. Can't we do something a little more productive to where it's, let's just restructure the way we look at society itself. Solutions instead of diagnosis. So that's kind of what we're going for there.
Absolutely. Also, catching your beard again. You might want to. You got a little twisted there on your.
Doggone it! I'm holding it away.
It's all good.
It's so Santa Clausy long, and it was a lot longer.
Listen, compared to 1930s radio, you are like the king of the world right now.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm
Isn't that
holding
kind of
it
great,
away.
though, just to think about?
Sure.
The little earbuds you have are better than all of RCA's technology at the time.
There is more computer power in this phone than in the Apollo 11 space capsule.
Probably in my watch.
Yeah, exactly.
What rule do you have for yourself that you never break, and why do you think that is important?
Man, I have the perfect answer for this because it's been the theme of my life. So when I was 16, I and 3 of my pals had a shamanistic experience where we did acid on a weekend night. A buddy of mine's parents were out of town, and we got a hold of some really, really potent, pure LSD. And as an artist, I mean, it's always kind of, I'm 55, cat's out of the bag, and it's kind of like a red badge of courage because we're, the articles and stuff are pointing to the fact that, there's a lot of good things that can come out of that. And I had a shamanistic experience where, again, McKenna is always about set and setting. We weren't going anywhere. We were parked for the night. This wasn't a party type of a thing. This was, I had the best of intentions. I was so excited to see what this experience would be like. And I had a wide-eyed enthusiasm, which I think the universe answered me with something that was super profound and something that I could. It was super scary, but I was wrapped in the ecstasy of laughing my ass off while I had this vision. And it turned into a work of art that I painted. And it's called Journey to My Ancient Lesson. So we're sitting around. We had, it was like 45 minutes in. We're watching MTV, the new thing that was only like a year or two old. Because cable, was like a new thing back then too. This was back in the olden days, early 80s. And I'm sitting around and I'm like, when's it going to start? When's it going to start? And, the other two guys that my friend and I were with, they were like, oh, you'll know when it starts. You'll figure it out. So one of the guys finally gets up and comes across the room, and on this table in front of me where I was sitting was this big bowl. And this buddy of mine says, you know what, Blake, this bowl looks really interesting. And I kind of looked at him and I did my best Jack Nicholson from The Shining talking to Lloyd. And I said, let me take a look at that bowl, Lloyd. So I grabbed the bowl from him and looked into it, and I flew into absolute blackness. It was black. Nothing, the void, as John Lennon calls it in Tomorrow Never Knows. So I'm flying, and all of a sudden, it's like the scene from Star Wars where they're chasing the first Star Wars, where they're chasing the TIE fighter, and Luke says, "Hey, he's flying to that small moon," and then Obi-Wan goes, "That's no moon, that's a space station." Right? So, but my space station was this red ball, and it was like the planet Mars. And as I flew up to it, I saw on the south pole of this ball was this giant, like, Coliseum that had been there since the freaking dawn of time. It was just been there forever, always had been. So I fly up into this, South Pole upside down stadium, and I notice there's a guy all by himself in the middle of it. And I fly up to this guy, and he's attached. So the gravity is not coming from the ball that is the planet that has the stadium on the bottom. It's coming from below. So it's like, you can just feel it sucking. If you weren't attached to this rock, you would fall into the infinite. And this person was attached to the bottom of this, like right at the South Pole, where the South Pole would be, had a spike through his right eyeball. And as I flew up to him, I saw it was me. So I'd been there since the dawn of time with this spike through my eyeball. And there was a grave marker right behind me. And it said, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust? Well, why do you point out the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye, but pay no attention to the plank in your own?" So that was the universe. And as I'm seeing this, I'm on the floor, clutching my stomach, crying. I am laughing so hard. I am laughing my ass off when I'm seeing this horrific vision. And that had a tremendous positive influence on the rest of my life, because the one thing I try to adhere to is to not be a hypocrite. Don't say one thing and do another. If you can't talk the talk, or if you can't walk the walk, don't talk it. So, and again, realityredesign.com, that's a big influence on me kind of coming out of the closet as this artist philosopher guy with this new theory that hopefully people will buy into. Altruistic, benevolent, trying to just make the world a better place. Art's task, Terence McKenna. Art's task is to save the soul of mankind, and anything less is a dithering while Rome burns. Because if the artists who are self-selected to journey into the other, if the artist can't find the way, then the way cannot be found. That's a direct Terence McKenna quote. Well, through that trip, I journeyed into the other, brought that back, painted it, trying to talk the talk and walk it.
That is the best Terence McKenna impersonation that I've ever heard. You have spent a lot of time listening to that man. He's a very hard cadence to get, and you nailed it.
Well, it's the concrescence of the knowledge that comes from the machine elves as they're dripping from my arms.
You could create a series of lost McKenna tapes.
Oh, I totally can. I want to do so.
Start predicting future events. It'll be the next QAnon.
Well, here's one of the ideas I've had is I want to do stage performances where I put on a freaking fro, kind of like B-strut, put on a fro wig, and I get on stage and I've got McKenna in my ear, and I just, I'll just repeat exactly his deal, talking to the audience. I can ad lib, but I could just, talk McKenna. He was real tall, wasn't he? Was he like 6 foot?
I think there's a place for you in the metaverse, sir.
I think so too. So yeah, fun stuff. I love Terence. Oh, I love Terence.
I was told
He's so awesome.
not too long ago that at a wedding by someone I've never met before that I look like Terence McKenna.
Yeah, you do.
You do.
But
yeah,
that
you do.
You need to pick it out a little bit.
I have a pick. Yeah, it's been all day and I've been had my hood on, but yeah, usually.
Or we can do the Milli Vanilli. Bill is the younger version of Terence. You are the older version, so your stage
exactly.
Show
yes.
Dude, I've always wanted to get caricatures drawn of Adam and I for the website. You could just make me look like.
Well, why don't we just find caricatures drawn of Terence McKenna and we're halfway there?
Sure. I love all the art that people use, and the best stuff of McKenna is the kinetic type stuff. And that is, I can do video editing, all that stuff, but that's all super like Adobe After Effects. But when you have the language and it's moving and it shows different pictures and stuff, that's another big influence of mine, is that the After Effects stuff. There's a group of creatives here in Kansas City where I'm located. They're called MK12, and I'll shoot you guys the link. You can put it in. They've got the way they move, consciousness around and animate stuff. This is where the solutions lie. Again, the solutions lie in trying to articulate the infinite and these solutions, collaborating with people who are video editors and Adobe After Effects people to bring this stuff to light so people can see it. If people can see, it's one thing to do it in movies to entertain, but it's another thing to do it to where we're educating ourselves. Here's what's possible. Here's what we can do. Here's how we can do it. Here are the machines that can really make it happen. Let's make these machines. They don't build them like they used to. And everybody talks about, oh, it's too expensive. We don't have the money. We don't have the money. Well, that's been proven now that doesn't really matter. Money doesn't really matter. It doesn't. So, and again, I don't want to diagnose why. I just think people know, So I think that, it's a change of priorities. It's just the changing of the mind to where we focus on a more positive way to be,
I do have.
If we all took care of our gardens, we'd live in a giant, well-kept garden.
Yes. Yes.
I wanted to ask that in your vision with the beam in your eye, that's from Matthew 7:3. Did you know that was a Bible verse when you had the vision?
I had heard the verse before Catholic school, okay. For sure. But boy, that was talk about scared straight. There you go. I went for a jog that morning and, I was still under the effects because we were up all night, but that night is filled with, there's so much art I could churn out based on the stuff that I experienced from that. It was just such a positive. And it was like, pineal gland. When I was jogging that morning, there was one of the things I got paranoid about, the fact that there was a crack down the center of my, things weren't lining up, like the street, was uneven. So one side of the street was like this, and the other side of the street was like, it was, as I was running, I'm like, I hope this isn't permanent. That's what I was thinking, It wasn't. But I think there was the message there through through your pineal gland. It's like, that's where you see this stuff, that, and that's what it's for. And your the Bible verse and the Catholicism, those were all that. It was given to me in a bite size. I mean, it was a full meal deal. I mean, it was like almost eating taking a bite out of the elephant, but I was able to digest that over time to where, like, this is the message. Matt, in previous forms, you were such a freaking hypocrite that you have to experience the infinite hanging from your eye, through your skull, nailed to the bottom of a deep, dark place. Here it is. Don't do that this time. And maybe you won't end up there again, But I think, in consciousness and the infinite and the creation and the creator, I think we're all just different aspects of the creator experiencing itself, learning about itself. That's the big, what we're doing.
Also, still getting some collar beard noise.
I should have probably worn a collar.
No, it's all good. It's part of the nature of the earbud beast.
Right. I wonder if I took it out, would you hear me as well? Let me try. Is that better?
Yeah, no, that works. No, that works good.
Sure.
Perfect. Question number 5. If I were to ask your best friend, what is the one thing they say you would need to work on the most, and why?
Well, I've got 3 autobiographical paintings that I've done, and one of them's behind me. That one's called The Consequences of Mania. But the one that I think is the most apropos, the other one is Journey to My Ancient Lesson that I described. The third painting, which directly answers this question, is called King of Procrastination. And it's a picture of me with a crown on my head, and my body's like is a screw, so it's going like this, into a television. And on one side of the television, it's Sports Center, and on the other side, it's porn. And I'm holding a giant screwdriver like this, and I'm holding it to where the screwdriver is going into my crown, and I'm screwing myself. So that's what happens when you're a procrastinator. You kind of screw yourself. My work ethic does not suffer from that, but there are things in like my personal life, like art, that I kind of blow off. But when I've got something to do for a client, like you guys, it gets done. Quickly as I can, and, try to stay on top of it. But as a creative, who's, squirrel with that kind of attitude or attention span, that's what all my friends would tell you that.
I like that you made it into a painting too. Like, not everybody takes something like that and then turns it into art. I think that's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, it's my business partner owns it. So he owns my ass as well, So it's pretty neat. I mean, I need to get posters of it made. Or an NFT. I got to get on those. See, that's the other thing. They're NFTs. I've been screwing around with that for like the past 2 months. If I miss the boat, what's the deal? I don't know if I ever not. The technology is pretty cool, but getting on top of something like that, really sitting down and put my nose to the grindstone on that. That's, it's stuff like that I need to. The prodigious work ethic is, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's work ethic, because I can find any distraction I'm too much of a consumer of media. I need to be producing my own media.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
13 Questions podcast.
Good answer.
The best answer we've had to this question so far. I think we'll just move on from here. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, talking about stuff like this is what life's about. And loving one another, heart, mind, body, soul. I mean, that's why we're here, It's not rocket science.
Yeah, making connections, honesty. I hope that is all those types of vibes what we're trying to put out. So I'm happy that seems to be having that effect.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, I like that it ties kind of back into your previous answer, that it's kind of the pondering and looking and questioning and viewing and absorbing the world, being part of it, which I still think, and I love how beautiful it is, because, it's really boils down to, live in the moment and be happy. And, how do you do that? You're not happy when you're being mistreated, and if you're part of a whole system, then it's about balance. And, the ultimate happiness is just very simply, make the best that you can in the place that you are, and just know that, things evolve like eternally. That is the system.
Right. And the key point you articulated right there, we evolve eternally. And I think that a part of my reality redesign, apparel, which I still haven't done, even though I've got a Shopify store, it's remember. I think everyone 10, 15, 20,000 years back has forgotten that this is some sort of ancient, crazy ass, super intelligent technology that was built for us, and we've just forgotten it. Even the Anunnaki, I think, forgot it, or even before them. I don't know if, Hermes Trismegistus, or however you say it. I mean, was he the guy who designed the simulation assumptionism? I don't know, who knows?
It was like an amalgamation of a few different people. But
right. Right. But I'm on board with that for sure. I mean, not that I want to, just, do no harm to anybody else, and, park evil somewhere for a while. I have another painting. It's called The Surrender of Evil for the Time Being. And the time being is a double entendre. It's an actual guy who is Father Time, that exists.
What was the most embarrassing or humbling experience of your life?
I'm presently going through my second divorce, and I've kind of dung beetled, crawled into a hole, and I'm just kind of rolling my ball of shit all by myself. So I'm presently going through that. I love my wife, and she's a great gal, but I wasn't cutting it. So we separated, and now we're divorcing. So it's sad, but it's a learning experience. I mean, it's made me into the man that I am. It's a tough lesson to swallow, but, I'm moving on, and all this stuff we're talking about, it's not her bag. She's too conventional and too normal is how she would phrase it. And, I harbor absolutely zero ill will. I don't want anybody to be a winner or a loser. I want to be her friend moving forward. And I hope that, to be in her life in some limited capacity. And I hope she meets someone that makes her happy. But that's the answer to that question.
But embarrassing or humble, is it either or? Is it both?
To be a failure like that is freaking I don't want to talk about it with any of my friends. They don't. First of all, no one wants to hear, me crying about it, and I don't want to cry about it. It's done, and I mean, everybody wants to be successful in life, and this has been, it's on me. This whole thing is on me. It's because I can't conform to just I wouldn't call it selling my soul, but I'm not just going to go. I mean, I am doing something now to make money. I'm waiting tables, because restaurants need help and people don't want to work, and it's a hard job, and I'm terrible at it, but I'm good with people. So, I do a good job for the restaurant and help them while they're short staffed. And it's a buddy of mine, and that's great. It's a win-win, but that's embarrassing. I mean, I'm 55. I mean, there's plenty of people that wait tables. It's a profession that's completely undervalued. I mean, this is something that you can't, build a droid to replace waiters just so you can not pay them health insurance. I mean, again, reality redesign. What are we doing? Are we building all this stuff just so we can avoid paying people, to take care of themselves or whatever, Again, it's a humbling thing. It's embarrassing when I see people out and they're like, oh, boy, hardly anybody really even knows, actually. So it's a new year. This has been going on since, July of 2021. So, again, it's time to come out of the closet in that regard too. And I'll put it on the record. When I do have financial success, and I will, I want to share it with her, even though we won't be together. I think that's, again, I'm not going to be selfish or, vindictive.
Right. The only reason I had asked if there was a distinction between embarrassing or humbling is because I myself personally have had a kind of a revelation, I guess, and I would like to share it with you because maybe it'll help somebody listening to this, that humility isn't really something that you find or can observe in nature, right? Can you think of an animal out in the wild that is humble? So it is very much something that must be learned, and like how you learn it is probably up to the individual, right? We all get knocked down a peg every now and again, right? And
sure,
it's just part of the weird experience of being human, from what I can tell.
Exactly. That's sage advice or a sage observation. I think that, I mean, I would like to think that I am a humble person. I mean, I act sometimes, the blakeArt name. I mean, that's tongue in cheek. That's a joke, or a cosmic giggle, the divine comedy. That's what all of this is for the most part. And, there's out of tragedy and despair and all these, crazy human emotions. This is where, I think Robin Williams, some famous quotes of him talking about this is where, great ideas, through these experiences, that's the stuff that makes us who we are. That's the stuff that generates, necessity is the mother of invention, that type of stuff, so.
What is your greatest fear? How did you overcome it?
I don't know if I have. I think it's I'm facing it right now, is the fear of putting myself out there and being successful. I know I can be successful. I don't want to sound like I'm, full of myself, but, I think I've always feared success, air quotes. But not anymore. I mean, I think the world is in dire need of perspective. I want to come at the planet, saying, "Hey, let's just look at things a little bit differently. Let's change the channel. Let's change the frequency. We can do it together, and we don't have to be dicks to each other about it, or fight over who gets what. It's all in how we look at society, and that again, focusing on the solution. We look at the way we talk about societies. You got to get to the top, and it's a pyramid, and you got to climb your way there, and you got to step on everybody's face on the way up, and then once you get there, you got to be a total fucking dick and keep everybody else down while you're up top, right? That's the wrong way to think about things. I think, and again, it's the structure of time as well. We shouldn't look upon the structure of society as a pyramid. You look at all those drawings of, the people at the top of the pyramid, and then you've got all the, different strata or caste systems below. It shouldn't be like a wedding cake. It should be like a spiral. Spirals spin, they move forward. It's like the x-axis, the y-axis, and then the z-axis. The z-axis comes from back here and moves forward. That's time. But then you've got what steers that is there's a line K that I've drawn. It's through a Miller indices. It's that demarks, ultimate goodness and ultimate badness or evil. And that should be the thing that's steering us. Again, it's like going from the Mario world to the virtual reality world. But then if you've got a map of the virtual reality world that shows you where to go and what direction, then, if we think of ourselves as a spiral, that's all inclusive. Look at galaxies, look at DNA. There's room for everybody in there. You start out, big at the bottom and you spin up. And then when you die, you poke out and come back out. It's just like how your chakras function. Like all those paintings by Alex Gray, that show the, how things work inside your, draws up into your body out the top. So that's a way of looking at things differently and have it be restructuring society by age instead of by where you're born or what color your skin is or what your sexuality is or, age. Do it by age. That's how professional sports does it. You work with from the time you're 18, or if you're super talented, maybe like Messi, you get in when you're 16, 17, and then you're out of there by the time you're 40. And then after that, all the young people should be taking care of you because you're older. Solutions instead of diagnosis. There's a solution right there.
And I love how you brought up perspective, and I love that was brought up because it's something that we try to give here on 13 Questions, and it's actually part of basically every social media post that I make for the show is usually a meme, and then at the top I'll have follow the show for dank memes and different perspectives. So the whole different perspectives thing, I love it.
Well, McKenna says that the memes are the ground basis or the easiest way to encapsulate a thought or a cartouche or a Egyptian. That's how the ancient Egyptians talked to each other. Those were their memes, the way their symbols were put together. And you link all that stuff together. And that's like forms a cohesive philosophy or thought. And that's how proteins work. You link together these different ideas, and that's how the DNA is structured,
Yeah, memes are magic too.
They totally are. I mean, you look at something and it's like it's also logos, the word logos is the Greek word for God or something similar. I mean, I don't know if I'm right on the money, but when you look at the McDonald's arches or the Nike swoop or, ExxonMobil, it immediately, all these thoughts come into your head. This is what this represents. French fries, sneakers, gas for your car, oil rigs, track meets, quarter pounder with cheese, Happy Meal, back and forth, back and forth. I mean, this is when you see that thing, that's what, and each, logos, colors mean things. I mean, there's just so much embedded in how Western civilization has structured itself to put all that together to make it to that's built out this, channel frequency that we're all kind of struggling with right now,
What is your single greatest driving force in life, and how do you further it?
Once again, it's, it's this message that I'm birthing. And I've been, I'm 55, which is a Fibonacci number. And that's also the number where the twist for me in the golden ratio comes in. So I think the first 55 years of your life are your real work years, where you really, build your life, you save your money, you do all those things. Well, now I'm flying without a net. And, this is the age where, 55, the next Fibonacci number after 55 is 89, which is, if you get to that, that's a pretty good life expectancy. That's only 34 years away. So I want this to be the symbol, this driving force to where I get this message out into the world that this is just an idea, or a series of ideas. Want to share it. I want it to be my task as an artist, through the McKenna imitation. I think that, if we have a clarion call to the artists of the world, the architects, the designers, we can just try to do a better job of taking care of ourselves, this place we call planet Earth, plain/T, because it's both. And let's clean it up. Let's make it fun. Let's make it interesting, and just, take a break. Let's put a timetable on it. Let's do 8 years, 22 to 30, before this agenda 2030 or whatever they've got planned, again, solutions, not diagnosis. Let's just do a better job of, putting people to work doing something that's, tangible results and the guys that built the pyramids, I mean, they had to feed those people, clothe them, entertain them, and it was, they were doing something that they were trying to push a message forward to us. If you look at Alan Green's research, which I haven't even touched on, huge influence. I know Alan personally. Went out to LA when I was out in LA about 4 years ago. We met for coffee and just had a great time. But the work he's done, he's got he was on, I introduced him to the Gramerica guys, and he talked about the fantastic, crazy ass research this guy figured out. I mean, talk about an Easter egg. I mean, this thing was, when I told Alan, and I'm not going to ruin the surprise for any of your listeners, you got to research it yourself. We could put the links to these videos that he made. And he was at CPAC. I went to CPAC in 2014, and he was there in 2018. CPAC, the Conference for Precession and Ancient Knowledge. It's put on by Walter Crittenden, who was a great year guy with the Sons by, has a silent sister sun that spins around. And that's what causes the precession of the equinox and the great year, 25,900 years for one cycle. I mean, that's a shitload. But when I saw this, what Alan had discovered, the analogy I used was when Mary went to go visit her sister Elizabeth. They were both pregnant with, she was pregnant with Jesus, and Elizabeth was pregnant with John the Baptist. John the Baptist leapt in Elizabeth's womb. So I'm a dude, okay? But when I saw what Alan had discovered, that was the feeling. It was like eureka, running through the streets of Athens naked, jumping out of the bathtub. I mean, it was like, talk about endorphin release in your brain. But see, I have put the knowledge in myself to be able to recognize what Alan Green discovered. And that, I'm not going to say it. People got to look at, I don't want to ruin it for people, because if you have any semblance of how this world has worked and what the history of man is and how things have progressed through time, this is the proof that, this stuff this is here for us to discover again. Remember, you are a member of the infinite, and you are remembering yourself. That's what we're doing. Long-winded.
Man. I love that you're an artist, so of course birthing this reality redesign thing, of course it's going to be your driving force, right? But the whole
correct.
Being, I think as a blanket statement, this should be, to some extent, maybe a part of everybody's the driving force, right? Is being this co-creator, because co-creator with the universe or with God, whatever you want to call it, right?
Sure.
It's kind of, and then it touches back to the solutions too. Like, you're bringing into existence something that wasn't there before and offering it to people as
right.
So that's awesome. I can't wait to see more what happened. And of course, we're going to pair, like, you're going to do work on 13 Questions website and lots of art, and we're going to link to your website and
sure.
a lot of collaboration. So I can't wait.
Rising tide. I'm so excited.
And bringing that frequency into existence.
Exactly. It is a frequency. It is a frequency. It's just like those, what, Adam, you might know, what's it called when they put that plate down and they put sand on it and they put the tone through it and it makes the shapes? It has a name.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, using frequency where it gives you a mathematical representation of the sound. I forget what it's called. I do know that they found ancient chambers that seem to be tuned that way.
Yes.
In which, you go down there and you make a sound, but the sound is represented by a symbol before you enter that then tells you, very interestingly, well, this shape appears on sand in this plate, and when you make this sound, it appears here. So that symbol is telling you to make that sound in there. Man, I wish I remembered. It's a very ancient. Well,
and it's in all the architecture. It's like in the those churches that are carved in stone in Ethiopia that are carved. They had a rock and they carved the church out of the rock.
Okay.
And they're. Modern pollution now is like dissolving all that rock, and they've got to cover them and, do all that stuff to preserve. And all the stuff in India with, things that are machined straight out of solid rock, but they've got these symbols in there that look just like the stuff on those plates. So they were very, whatever society it was and however old, we've been led to believe, this stuff is, they had this knowledge of, the sound.
Oh, yeah. Well, think about how smart we are with the world around us and the technology we have and what we figured out. Now, boil all of that into a simpler world without the computers, but just as much knowledge about the natural world and what exists around you. And people are going to have a much broader and better understanding of a lot of aspects of reality that, I mean, we're playing Xbox.
Yes. I can't disagree with that. These are just very advanced avatars, and we all chose to be here. You know, if you think about, you know, the highly advanced soul that chose to come down and be, you know, someone who's physically or mentally challenged. I mean, those people, I mean, learning from them, taking care of them, making their life freaking amazing should be the focus of how we exist as a society.
Who were or are your role models and why?
You know, Darren and Graham, I don't know. No. They are, for sure. I would say, you know, I got to say Graham Hancock. I got to say Alan Green. I got to say Fred Rogers. I got to say Bill Hicks. I got to say George Carlin, Dave Chappelle. You know, sticking with your guns. Benoit Mandelbrot, Lauren Carpenter. You know, the guys that are, you know, the fringe outside the box, not in the mainstream, who follow their passion and, you know, damn the torpedoes because they know that they're, you know, in the right. And that's, you know, I don't know who quoted this, but, you know, there's a, you know, being, you know, living in a time where telling the truth is a crime, you know, that's the, you know, Joe Rogan, you know, I don't agree with everything he says, but boy, talk about building something out of nothing. And he's a conduit.
That's a man who's cracked the secret. He's got the Konami code to reality, whether it's being, you know, a national champion when it came to Taekwondo,
Yep.
or comedy, or sitcoms, or reality TV, or commentary, or podcasting. He has this way of viewing the world and molding it into his reality, because ultimately all he does is make sounds and move his body in a different way to put himself in different positions. And that's it. And he, out of doing those things, made that empire to where more people listen to Joe Rogan than, you know, all mainstream MSM, you know, TV shows combined, which is powerful. I mean, you know,
that last guy, that Dr. Robert, whatever his name is, that they've banned from, you know, YouTube and stuff and from Twitter. It was the biggest podcast ever. There's 40 million people watched that in like the first 2 days or some crazy number like that. You are absolutely right, Adam.
Yeah, so it's wonderful that, you know, like you said, I don't agree with what other people necessarily say or you know, the things they have, but I love new ways of thinking and new thought, and no matter who it comes from or what it is, I want to hone my ideas, hone my thoughts, even if it's bumping up against ideas that I don't agree with. You know, I want to, you know, internalize them and see them for all their views and their flaws, and, you know, hone my ideas, you know, to make them sharper. And, you know, you can't do that if you're just not allowed to expose yourself. And, you know, God bless him. He's preventing an echo chamber in a system that, you know, just seems to kind of want to, I don't know, there's like a media rut, and, you know, the information just kind of flows into that one space.
Well, I think it's a divide and conquer thing. I think that the mainstream or the legacy media, quote, air quotes, is the whole function of it is to muddy the water and misinform the populace. And thank God for independent media. I think hopefully it remains. Hopefully this draconian suppression and censorship. I think a lot of people around the world are fed up and are, flexing their muscle. We're not doing it here in the United States. And I think the big reason why is because our jobs are tied to our healthcare. So people don't want to lose their job, even though people are, the great resignation is happening. I mean, people are like, these mandates that are coming down, I don't want to poo-poo them. I think that they, I don't know if their hearts are in the right place or not in regards to that. Got a pretty good idea that they're probably not, but, people aren't putting up with it, which is good. I mean, can't we do better? Again, those in power, you don't have to be such dicks. So that's that.
No, power corrupts,
Yes.
What quality do you most admire in a woman?
Oh God. Man. Independence, being that, having your own opinion, speaking your mind, and having the sexiest part of a woman, in my opinion, is their brain and their mind, for sure. And just having a great sense of humor and being able to laugh at yourself, not take things too seriously, that type of stuff. So, and also thank God women like a wide variety. I think men like the stereotypical, Barbie doll for the most part. But women, God love them. Thank God they fall in love with, guys of all different shapes and sizes. Somebody, in the design department with the avatars was really thinking outside the box with that for sure. So
I like it. So a true artist's appreciation of somebody else's ability to appreciate the nuance of life.
Yeah, but you said it way more concisely than I did. That just goes to show that I need to trim my hedge of vocabulary.
What is the most courageous thing you have ever done or seen in your life?
Well, probably the acid trip when I was 16 is pretty courageous, outside of the box. I had a near-death experience in high school at a cross-country meet. I almost died of heat exhaustion. I don't say that that's me being brave, but, almost dying and being outside of your body was, and coming back from that was pretty courageous.
You
I don't want to go.
were you looking?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. If you don't want to go into it, then I won't ask. But you said you were out of your body. Like, were you looking down on your body?
I was in the crowd looking at myself, and I was not being. It was like I was possessed. I mean, I was saying some very crazy shit, and I tried to kick my dad in the face with my cross-country spikes. I mean, I was out of control, but I was hallucinating. So I didn't eat or drink anything 24 hours before this race. It was September, beginning of September. It was like 95 degrees. Varsity ran last. It was like 11 o'clock in the morning. I would get so amped up for these freaking races that couldn't even talk to me. But I didn't eat or drink anything because I thought it would hinder my performance. So right before the race, I took a little swig of Gatorade, and that's it. And I heard the gun go off before anybody else. I mean, I was 10 yards out. I just jumped it, like perfect timing. And that's not me. That I was not a naturally gifted runner, but I could use strategy. I was a smart runner. So I got to the top of this first hill. It's 3.1 miles, and I'm probably about a half mile in. I turn around, and the freaking pack is 40 yards behind me. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I mean, I had no idea. I was like, what am I doing? So I just kind of jogged and let everybody pass me, and I counted. So I let like 30 guys pass me, then I hung in right there. Then I got to about the 2 mile marker, and I said, all right, I'm going. So I started picking people off, and I was just flying through people. I mean, effortless. Then all of a sudden I black out. I don't remember like a portion of the race. And I came to in the chute where I probably had 50 yards to get to the end, and I lost my equilibrium. So what happened is that I couldn't stand up, and I kept falling over. And like the whole talk about it, it's like being on a merry-go-round, and it was horrible feeling. And I couldn't even crawl straight. And the crowd, I mean, there was like 400, 500, 600 people at this meet. There was 200 guys in the race, or more. And people are just screaming at me, and I'm crawling. And when I fell down, I was in 12th place. And when I crawled across the finish line, I crawled across in 16th place. But I didn't go through the chute and get my popsicle stick with my number on it. So they disqualified me. So I'm laying there and I'm hyperventilating. They're like, get some ice. And then all of a sudden I heard the tone. I heard like a tone frequency, Adam. I heard this tone where you hold your hands up to your ears like this and go, like that. And all of a sudden I'm in the crowd. And I'm looking at myself on the ground. And it was I was me there looking at myself. And it took me a second or two to figure it out. And I was like, holy shit, And it was like maybe, I don't know how long time was, probably 15 seconds. And then I was right back in my body, possessed by the devil, being a fucking asshole. And they were putting ice on me. They were carrying me, and they put me in this ambulance. And I'm in this ambulance with my mom and my buddy from the team. And the whole way to the hospital, I'm like, Mom, get the ambulance driver to give me a barf bucket. I need to throw up. Mom, give me an ambulance driver. Give me a barf bucket. I need to throw up. And then I reached forward and grabbed the driver's hair and pulled on it. I'm like, give me a barf bucket. I mean, no clue. They give me the hospital. I sucked down 2 bags of IV. I was never in an ambulance. Some guy drove me to the hospital in his Ford freaking Bronco. I hallucinated the entire thing. It was completely fucked up. They said that my temperature on the field was probably 108, which is fatal. And because when they took my temperature at the hospital, it was like 105. So, I mean, I talk about, frying some crispy brain cells. I mean, I shouldn't even be here.
Right.
So,
I wonder if 108 has certain mystical connotations in some traditions. So I wonder if like that's some magic, just speculating here, like is that like the threshold of like where does everybody have out of body experiences when they reach 108? Like, is that just the body work?
They must. They must.
Information is interesting, right?
Well, I mean, that again, speculate. That's the word. I mean, that's what the doctors told my parents. They're like, my God, he cooked himself, medium rare. I think that's had a big influence. Now, that's what's brave and courageous about that. I don't know. I've seen lots of people be brave, standing up for yourself. speaking the truth. I think that's something we all, what's the famous phrase? The universe rewards the courageous, or something like that. Again, McKenna. I don't know.
Yeah, I forgot about the question. It was about courage.
Right.
Your death experience. But yeah, your experience at 16, like I would say that's courageous, because with any type of substance like that, there is kind of like a fear barrier you have to get to control. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad experience, right?
Well, right. And it's set and setting. Again, it was all positive. I didn't think, oh my God, I'm going to have the idea of having a bad trip didn't even enter my mind. I was all about the communication with whatever this thing did. And I'd done research. I'd read about it. I knew what was going on. So, and it was very much influenced by the Beatles. Were the Beatles, did MK5 or, the English Secret Service jump in with them and try to manage them to make them, if you look at the whole Laurel Canyon thing in the 60s, was all this, LSD stuff, was it all a psyop? Again, solutions, not diagnosis, but, there's plenty of evidence to dig into and documentaries that have been made about it, all that kind of stuff. Oh, another big influence, Adam Curtis. Forgot about Adam Curtis. Google Adam Curtis, Century of Self, Power of Nightmares, all kinds of good stuff, documentaries.
All right, that's a rabbit hole I'll be jumping down.
Yes, if you've never heard of them, oh man, Century of Self.
I'm not.
It lays it out, the 20th century. It's like from citizens to consumers, that's what's happened.
What does it mean to be a man in today's world?
Wow.
It's a bit of a double entendre, because it can be, what does it mean to be a man in today's world, or what does it mean to be a man in today's world?
Again, you got to talk the talk and then walk it. There's so many pitfalls, and it's like that game you play with you got the two handles with the marble, and you got to go from number 1 all the way to number 100. And you got to go through the maze, and you got to work your way around. There's so many ways to stub your toe and fail, but I think if you, be a high-minded man, a gentleman, treat others with respect, never disparage anyone, know that we're all, to quote Master and Commander, at the funeral where they're, that guy that grabbed because he thought of himself as the Jonah, he jumped overboard to save the rest of the guys on the ship. I mean, we're all God's creatures, and great and small. And I think that it's a missing art form, or we've really kind of forgotten. We got to remember what life is really all about, and be a beacon, to be an example to others that, hey, there's a better way to be. Let's tell a better story. That's what being a man is. It's telling a better story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love the be a beacon. I love the way you put it like that, because there is something that with the future guest I'm going to bring up is this idea of an exemplar, and it is somebody that sounds, it is what it sounds like, an example, right? So being an example of making your life an example of pointing people to higher minded things, like this podcast and what you're doing with reality redesign and things like that. Like that's being a beacon. Like that's the point of this show. I mean, and that's kind of how I try to act in general. So yeah, it makes sense to me.
Well, the fact that we're talking about this stuff and you're bringing it up with everybody you have on your podcast. I mean, it's like, John the Baptist in the wilderness coming into town. Hey, beating the drum, pay attention. This is, wake up. That type of a deal. We got to do a better job.
Remembering the way you break down that word is super neat. Yeah.
We're all members, It's what Groucho Marx. I wouldn't be, I wouldn't belong to a club that had me as a member. That's kind of the double entendre. I mean, but we're all, but we all are members of the same.
And I like it. It kind of hints to that idea that, the world, is membered. It's been dismembered, but you're remembering that all the knowledge, all the information, all the possibility, it is there. And, we're just putting together, infinite possibility into a cohesive reality.
Right.
And we're doing that. All your thoughts, every airplane, every, machine, every single device or, utility, thing created by man is literally just a thought in the world around us, put together in such a way that it becomes magic.
Right. Deus.
Yes.
Deus is the Latin word for God. Idea. If you conjugate it, that's where it comes. That's it. Logos. This is what shapes our, what this is. Simulation Assumptionism.
Well, sir, that was the 13 questions.
Crazy.
You're out of the hot seat now, as Bill likes to say.
Well, and how long was that? It was like over 2 hours, wasn't it?
Including what we pre-recorded, we're probably somewhere just under 2 hours or around 2 hours.
Well, we're not completely done yet. We were going to talk a little bit about what, well, first of all, I want
No, he's done with this, Bill. He was just being polite.
This has been great, you guys. I think that, I'm going to spread this around to my community outside my comfort zone and see if we can get an audience for this thing. Bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, this is the perfect episode actually to open up the new year with. This is the first one that we've recorded on this side of the solstice. So you kind of plugged your websites during the course of the interview. Go ahead and mention them again if you want to, but then I was thinking maybe about the logos, plural.
Yes, for sure. The website is www.reality-redesign.com. Solutions instead of diagnosis. And the big influences there are Terence McKenna, Dave Chappelle, Fred Rogers, and Adam Green or Alan Green. Those are the kind of the four guys that are when you look at it, that's the flavor of the site. And what we're putting forth 13 tenets, which I'm working on right now, laying them out graphically and tweeting them as, memes. But they're not memes. It's more of a slides in a PowerPoint. But I'm doing them in reverse order, 13, 12, 11, 10, so that they stack up in my Twitter feed to when you go to the top, number 1 will be the pinned one, all the way down to the number 13. And the top 2 are 2 pieces of musical art that I've thought of. I'm not a musician, but I've had, something I call the ritual for the new age, which is a poop prayer, where you go in thy chamber and close thy door and pray to thy Father in secret, but you do it in the bathroom and you ritualize going to the bathroom. And the number one tenet is the anthem for the new age, which I am giving myself the deadline of March 22nd of this year, the equinox. But it's a march, and it was I tuned into the frequency atom, and it just popped into my head, fully formed tune and everything. And it's like a march in a musical something from like The Music Man. And the title of the song, the subtitle is "It's Time to Be Nice." It's time to be nice. It's time to be nice. Da, 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 da. But that's the anthem for the new age. And this all has to do with Aquarius. It all has to do with the positions of the stars and why this is happening, why we're all here. The curvature of the spin, the structure of consciousness that I'm tuned into, that you're helping me birth, which is great.
Well, the beautiful
I'm glad
thing is
you are part of it.
Whether you want to or not, we are all tuned into it as well. We're thinking beings. We're here, and can't detune. When you do, you get to figure out some more of the mysteries.
Exactly, and make it fun. Yeah. There should be a roller coaster that starts in Seattle and ends up in, Orlando. Why not? Like a 4-day long roller coaster. Then partially underground. Put Elon Musk on drilling that puppy.
Sounds like a fancy speed train. But yeah, life should be fun. Speaking of fun and the creator process.
Yes.
We've actually got not one logo, but two. And I was going to mention when in the role model question you brought up Darren and Graham, Grammarica boys, like
yes,
those two navigate and build the Grammarica show over the years, and as it progressed, just watching the evolution of everything and being part of the community and whatnot. I credit them for at least giving me the idea to not, because I originally wanted just one logo, right? Well, we ended up with two because both were great, and I've often observed them choose both options as opposed to either or, which is I think a third that a lot of people, maybe just me, tend to overlook. But in the first one that I wanted to talk about is actually I don't know if this is okay to say. I think it is, but the image of the little man in that picture has a special meaning for you, and I just wanted to point that out.
Sure.
And kind of get your thoughts behind the concept of the young man reaching for the sun, and you'll see that image will be used for this episode. So
beautiful.
Listener will know what we're talking about.
Right, that's my nephew, and that's a picture that I took when I was at their house, and he was looking outside at the snow. He'd never seen snow before because I don't even know if he was a year old. But that picture of him in silhouette was like, it's been my screensaver for, years. And then, to put the machinery of consciousness, instead of him, gazing out at the snow, put a, representation of the mechanism of what the machinery behind, how existence presents itself to us through consciousness, the creation of what this is, made and designed by a creator, look at the way the spine works. Look at the way eyeballs are designed. Sorry, somebody, in the realm of the infinite, all things are possible. Was it machine elves that helped design all that stuff? Maybe. Look at Time Bandits. It's kind of a similar concept. One of my favorite movies.
Well, I mean, either way, it really speaks to a lot of that. Even if it just is an innate feature of reality, it's something that we do and we become proficient at, and we are, mimicking the same things that the system is doing. And when you start looking at it like that, like an as above, so below, well, design.
Exactly. And I think that yeah, that's, we've let the, there are predators in nature that disguise themselves, that are prickly, that are, scary, but let's evolve past all that behavior. We now know how things kind of operate. That's a double-edged sword. You could use it for bad or you could use it for good. Right now, I think there's a lot of people that now know how things really work, and they're using it for their own selfish, power, money, motivation. Well, you guys won the game of Monopoly. Okay. You get to keep all that stuff for yourself. Let's start over and make it a little more fun, a little kinder, a little gentler. To quote H.W. Bush, one of my favorite people, kinder, gentler, So I'm doing Dana Carvey doing.
Edition.
Yeah. So, I think we can always start the game over and make it a little more inclusive, a little more altruistic, benevolent, empathy,
Yeah. So
we can teach that stuff. We need to teach. There are people that don't know how to feel that. And that's because they've been, immersed in a tradition of, it's not their fault. It's just like Robin Williams hugging, Good Will Hunting with Matt Damon. It's not your fault, buddy.
So we've been calling that image wonder, I believe, and then the second image, which I guess we do kind of have to explain a little bit to the listener, because that won't be out with this episode, but it's essentially the inside of a cockpit with 13 questions and a question mark kind of overlaid in front of it. But during the course of our meetings about this, Adam, I really liked your view on how that image spoke to you. Like, did you have any input on anything you wanted to share about it?
No, I should say, because I don't remember the thinking originally, but one thing that I love that I'm thinking about in just the context is, you have the toddler, your nephew, looking out at the snow, but it's really, there's this mechanism, there's this sub thing. It's kind of like, it's like we were speaking about computers earlier, whether it's, a Mac, whether it's a Nintendo, whether it's, you're watching YouTube, there's still this base electronic, there's this base code, there's this base something that can evolve and can change, but ultimately there's something underneath the surface that you never see. And,
right.
We're all interacting on it on some level. And you just have this child, this youth, this yearning for questions and wisdom and these things that we pass down and that we gain. And I don't know, it encompassed in that image, it just has a flavor of just all of those things. So yeah, I don't know how it is. It's, it's a silhouetted photo, but it holds in it wonder.
Well, I agree with that, and I love that image. But the whole aspect of being, the navigator while you guys are flying the flight from the takeoff of the first question to the landing of the 13th question. I mean, that's another beautiful analogy that, every podcast is a trip unto itself. And, this one, quote
that
the
one, and that one especially, that one especially really with the airplane, because that one, when I look at the airplane, like, what is an airplane? It's getting you to another destination, and I see that in the same way as wisdom. It can guide you, it can give you places to go. Sometimes you don't know what the destination is. You don't know how to get there. You need a pilot. You need somebody to help you. You need a map. You need some information. You don't know how to use the controls, and, when you think about a plane and, where knowledge and information and, just having a pilot that's flown through and knows the terrain and knows where he's going and knows where the airports and, where to get fuel and, all of these things that, if you were to go out and make the journey without that, to me, that's wisdom. And then the other side of it is, well, where are we going to go? Where do you want to go? Where can we go? And, with an airplane, you have infinite possibility. And one of the things that I really like too is just the way that the centering of the question is, the question mark in the center of the image. You've got at the very base as part of the airplane, just this, like it's a kit, it's part of the emergency kit. You got a flashlight, like first aid. You just got some of these, basic things there in the cockpit. And, I just kind of like that, just centering up perfectly there as, within the question that, flashlight or radio, these other things that, I don't know, the whole image just, yes, it's an airline cockpit, but, that the whole thing just encompassed, I don't know, just it seemed to encompass just what 13 questions, not is as a machine, but is as a philosophy if it was a machine.
Right. Yeah, come in, have a seat, let's take off.
Mm-hmm.
I like how they're empty seats too. The cockpit is empty, so it's not. And to me, that speaks to the open source aspect of 13 Questions podcast, which I do feel like gets lost sometimes in the shuffle. But this is supposed to be an somewhat open sourced show. We want to encourage our listeners to go and ask these 13 questions or whatever iteration of 13 questions you want to do, with a role model or somebody that you in the third person respect and would like to memorialize maybe for them and their knowledge to help other people if that's something that floats your boat and you want to do, listener. But that's what that image speaks to me, is like, because it could be the listener in the pilot seat, and their co-pilot could be like their guest, right? Or
sure.
If it's Adam and I doing the show, then we're in the pilot seat and the guest is the co-pilot. It could go, there's so many directions.
The guest is the navigator, because they're the ones that you're flying. You guys are flying where he takes you.
Bingo.
And then here's another interesting thing that you made me think of, Adam, when you were talking, which ties in with what Bill was just saying, the word plane itself and how.
Never even thought about that. It's such a multifaceted metaphor with just a simple image. And it really catches me in a very catcher in the rye type of way, where there's never a description of the character. You fill your place in the empty cockpit. It speaks to me on that wisdom level that, again, you can go anywhere. Wisdom can take you anywhere. But if you don't know how to fly the plane, if you don't know the controls, if you don't know where you're going, if you don't have something, then you don't even know where all the places you can go and all the new places to explore, even how to explore or how to get there. And, just wisdom it gives you those options for exploring life and getting more from it. And, or at the very least, having an understanding that gives you a better grasp on life, better way to navigate.
Better way to be. Tell a better story. It all ties in.
That's the best way. It's right. We all are the stories that we tell about or that we tell ourselves.
I agree.
Yeah, it's going to be cool to see the logos upgrading. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really, especially, I mean, that plain one just it caught me and it stuck in my craw. So, I mean, kudos to you, sir.
Well, thank you. I think maybe what you should do is just rotate even, odd, even, odd. So like it's, you know,
Yeah.
so like this one will start out with the Wonder Kid, and then the next one's I
That's
I
kind
love the multifaceted identity. It's, and it's going to work out great on the website upgrading and stuff. So
yeah, I can't wait to see everybody's reaction to the new logos. And then we've got tons more stuff to do on the website that you're going to be helping out with. I'm super excited about that.
me too.
Be a really fun year.
Can I thank you guys one more time?
Hell
for
yeah, you
having me
can. But
on?
only if we can thank you.
Sure. This has been fantastic. And, this is long format. I hope it wasn't too long, but, super interesting questions, really making me work my brain. Great format, great concept. And I appreciate you guys having me on as a guest. It's very thankful and grateful.
Why is one man rich and another man poor? Why we ain't satisfied? Why we gotta have more? Why your suicide rates on the rest so high? Why I tell you the truth but you say don't lie? Why is being a good father at an all-time low? Why is it acceptable? Yo, why? I don't know. Why she blame him and he blame her? It's useless. Ask yourself this question. Why you making excuses? Why do parents gotta bury their kids? Why we text and drive, not caring how scary it is? Why it's so hard to forgive and leave the past behind? And if you did, then that's divine. Why don't you help your brother when you see him fall? Why do we act like God don't see it all? Why do we call them black, them white, them Asians and use labels? Now that's racism. Why? Why is there innocent people locked up for life, while some people can't say nothing nice? Why do we always gotta question what all of it means? And why won't you follow your dreams? Tell me why. The night when you took my dad, why'd you let me see my grandpa cry? And tell me why. And why do you choose to hide, even though you was born to fly? And tell me why. And why don't we turn from all the hate? And why don't we learn from all mistakes? Why do I keep on wrecking these fat beats? And teachers don't make more than professional athletes. And why? And why? And why? And why? And why? And why?
This should be considered entertainment and not therapy. We hope you benefit from our resources available at 13questionspodcast.com. Thank you for listening.